I'm Madison Cole, 29 years old, and I never thought a broken leg could hurt less than being forgotten by my own parents. 2 days after a drunk driver slammed into my car, I woke up alone in a hospital bed, drugged, disoriented, and terrified. They weren't coming. They'd chosen my sister's college orientation instead, and later that same day, they sent a photo standing beside her dorm room, smiling under a banner that said, "College Bound." That was the moment something in me shifted for good. Before I go any further, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt like the one your family forgot. I grew up in a small town in Indiana. We weren't rich, but we were steady. My parents raised me to be responsible, helpful, and kind. I did everything by the book: straight A's, part-time jobs, early curfews. My little sister Haley was 3 years younger, and from the very start, she was treated like she'd hung the moon. Haley was full of life, loud, messy, charismatic. She could talk her way out of anything and often did. If she missed curfew, it was Haley's just finding herself. If I missed it, that never happened. I wouldn't dare. At 16, I saved every babysitting dollar I had to buy a used laptop for school. When Haley turned 16, our parents gave her a brand new MacBook for her photography dreams. That kind of thing happens so often, it stopped surprising me. I earned. She received. Even my high school graduation weekend didn't belong to me. I stood on that stage with an empty seat in the crowd where my parents should have been. They were 3 states away cheering Haley on at a soccer tournament. My grandma came in their place, bless her, but it wasn't the same. That night when I called home, my dad said, "Your graduation is just a formality. You got the diploma, didn't you?" Still, I did what I was taught to do. I kept my head down and worked harder. I put myself through a college on scholarships and late-night shifts at the campus library. I became a physical therapist. I moved into a little one-bedroom in an old Victorian with creaky floors, wide windows, and second-hand furniture I'd refinished by hand. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, every inch of it. Meanwhile, Haley dropped out of 3 different programs. Each time our parents paid for her new dorm, new supplies, new second chances. I never resented her. She was just playing the role she was given. But I started to wonder if anyone noticed that I had needs too. When I got promoted to senior therapist, I called my parents first. My dad listened for 30 seconds, then cut me off, because Haley had just texted vacation photos from Thailand. That was our family orbit Haley at the center, the rest of us circling somewhere beyond Pluto. So when the accident happened, when my car was crushed by a pickup that ran a red light, I believed they'd finally come. I believed it right up until the nurse came back and said they were out of town for Haley's orientation and wouldn't be coming. Not for surgery, not for anything. Later that day, as I lay in a haze of painkillers and stitches, my phone buzzed with a new message. I opened it, hoping for some kind of reassurance. It was a photo. My parents and Haley grinning in front of her dorm room under a bright college banner. The caption read, "So proud of our baby girl starting her journey." There was no mention of me. No, "How are you feeling?" No, "We'll be there soon." Just celebration. That was the moment something inside me gave way. Not loud, not angry, just quiet and final. And that's where everything started to change. The nurse found me crying so hard the bed rails shook. I was still holding my phone. The photo was still on the screen. My parents and Haley arm in arm, smiling like everything was perfect. And somewhere between the pain in my leg and the silence from the people who raised me, something cracked wide open. They had chosen a dorm room over a daughter in surgery. They had chosen Haley again. They had to sedate me. When I woke up, Amber was there. She must have come straight from work, still in her scrubs, eyes full of worry. She pulled the recliner close and held my hand as I explained what happened, how my parents weren't coming, how they sent a photo instead. "That's not okay, Madison," she said softly. That's not just messed up. It's cruel. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent my whole life swallowing the disappointment, finding excuses for them, trying not to take it personally. Haley needs them more, I whispered. Amber didn't answer right away. She sat there brushing the hair back from my forehead like a big sister would, and finally said no. She doesn't. And even if she did, that's not the point. That night she stayed with me, slept in the chair stiff and uncomfortable, brought me coffee in the morning, helped me wash my face. When I winced trying to sit up, she adjusted the pillows and held the straw to my lips so I could drink. She didn't say much, just stayed close. This is what family actually does, she said later, combing the knots from my hair. The days blurred together after that routine, checks pain management, the slow, frustrating steps toward recovery. I listened as the surgeon explained the road ahead, no weight-bearing for at least 6 weeks, followed by months of rehab. He laid it all out with gentle certainty, but I already knew. I'd walked this path with my patients 100 times. Now it was my turn. I tried not to think about how hard it would be to manage the stairs at my apartment, or how quiet it was after visiting hours ended. My parents called that evening. I let it ring twice before answering. We just finished dinner with Haley, and her roommate mom said brightly, "The dorms are really nice. They even have little study nooks in the hallway." I listened, said, "That's great, and I'm glad she likes it." Didn't mention the swelling in my leg or how hard it was to sleep. Didn't bring up the nurse who helped me bathe or the tech who cleaned blood from the bandages. There didn't seem to be room for it. The next morning, another message. I heard the buzz and glanced at my phone. It was a photo again. Same 3 faces, same dorm. Haley with a peace sign, my dad's arm around her. My mom holding a sign that said, "Proud Parents." No caption, no mention of me. I just stared at it, for a long time. I didn't cry at first, just stared. But when the tears came, they didn't stop. My chest felt hollow, like I'd been scooped out and left with nothing. That's how Carolyn, my nurse, found me. Phone still in hand, body shaking. They gave me something to calm down. I slept most of the afternoon. When I woke up, Amber was back. She sat down on the edge of the bed and asked gently, "Do you want to talk about it?" I showed her the picture. She looked at it for a few seconds, then handed the phone back. "You don't deserve this," she said. "None of it." I nodded, but I didn't believe her yet. Not really. We sat like that for a while, quiet. Then I told her about the braces I had to pay half for in high school, about how I'd gotten into my physical therapy program, but they said they couldn't help with tuition, and then turned around and bought Haley a new car. Amber listened without interrupting. When I got promoted last year, I said I called my dad. He cut me off because Haley was sending pictures from her backpacking trip. Amber didn't say anything right away. Then she leaned forward, took my hand again, and said, "Madison, this isn't just favoritism. This is a pattern." A few hours later, a woman named Dr. Patel came into the room. She was the hospital's social worker. Said she'd been notified about my emotional distress. She asked if I wanted to talk, and for the first time in a long time I said yes. I told her everything, how it had always been this way, how I'd worked, saved, showed up, how Haley got celebrations and I got silence. When I finished, she sat there quietly for a moment. "What you're describing," she said finally, "is long-term differential treatment. It happens more often than people think, but that doesn't make it right." I didn't say anything. "You've done a remarkable job surviving it," she added. "But survival isn't the same as healing." The word boundaries came up. She said it softly, but it landed hard. I remember repeating it out loud after she left. Boundaries. I'd never considered that I was allowed to set them, especially with my own parents. That night when the hallway lights dimmed and the beeping machine softened into background hum, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the daughter who always understood. I wasn't going to keep pretending it didn't hurt. 3 days later, I was discharged. Amber cleared out her guest room and made space for my wheelchair. She brought my favorite blanket from my apartment, set up a little table for my books. Every detail was thoughtful, quiet kind. My parents called that morning. They were finally heading home. I didn't pick up. I sent a single message. Being discharged today. Staying with a friend. Will reach out when I'm ready. Then I turned my phone off. The next part of this story isn't about silence. It's about what comes after. When the world finally stops spinning and you decide you're done chasing people who never showed up. Amber's guest room had soft light in the mornings and a view of the little patch of garden she kept behind the kitchen. It was quiet, peaceful. I spent the first few days just resting, eating what I could, doing my breathing exercises, tracking my pain meds. The movement was limited, but my mind was full. Amber helped me settle in without making it feel like charity. She brought over a stack of books from my apartment, put a vase of fresh flowers on the dresser, and placed my favorite mug on the nightstand. Every small act said, "You belong here." We didn't talk much at first, not about my parents, not about Haley. Most of our conversations were about logistics, doctor visits, ice packs when the home nurse would arrive. But even in the quiet, I could feel something shifting, like the noise I'd always lived with was finally fading. By the second week, I turned my phone back on. There were dozens of missed calls, text after text, voicemails, emails. The tone changed over time, first polite, then concerned, then frantic. "Madison, please call us. We're worried. This isn't like you. You can't just shut us out." There were messages from Haley, too, softer, hesitant. "Hey, I heard you're not answering Mom and Dad. Just wanted to check in. Are you okay? I hope you're healing. Let me know if you need anything." I replied only to her. "I'm safe and recovering. I need space from Mom and Dad right now. This isn't about you." She responded right away. "I understand. Take the time you need. Love you." 3 days later, the doorbell rang. Amber checked the peephole, then turned to me. "It's them," she said quietly. "We'd prepared for this." I stayed in the bedroom and texted her, "I don't want to see them." Amber stepped outside to meet them on the porch. I heard my mother's voice first. "We've come to see Madison. We just want to make sure she's okay." "She's safe," Amber said. "She's asked for space." "That hasn't changed." "We're her parents," my father said louder. "We have a right to be here." Amber's voice stayed calm. "She's an adult, and she's made a choice. I'm asking you to respect that." There was a pause. Then my mother's voice again, tight and strained. "This isn't like her. We don't understand why she's doing this." "That's the problem," Amber replied. "You don't understand." They left not long after. I stayed behind the closed door until the sound of their car faded down the street. That evening, Amber brought in tea and sat at the edge of my bed. "You okay?" "I think so," I said. The days passed slowly. My neighbor stopped by to water my plants and bring in my mail. A few co-workers sent cards or dropped off meals. Even people I hadn't seen in years reached out. Some just wrote, "I heard what happened. Let me know if you need anything." Others brought lasagna, sat for an hour, told stories from work, and asked nothing in return. One afternoon, I looked around the room at Amber, folding laundry in the next room, at the stack of books I'd already started, at the flowers someone had left in a mason jar by the window, and I realized something. These people showed up. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. That hit me harder than I expected. The difference between obligation and care. By the 4th week, I was moving around with a walker. Short distances, slow steps. But it felt good to be upright again. My nurse said my healing was right on schedule. Therapy had started 2 twice-a-week virtual sessions with Dr. Chin. She specialized in family dynamics. I didn't say much during the first session, just told her the basics, the hospital, the phone call, the photo. She listened. At the second session, she asked me, "What do you want from your parents now?" I didn't have an answer right away. I'm not sure I said. "If we have a relationship, it has to be different." She nodded. What would different look like? No more pretending everything's fine, I told her. No more acting like it didn't happen. I need them to understand. I need them to own what they've done. And if they can't, she asked gently, then maybe I don't need a relationship at all. It was the first time I'd said that out loud. It didn't feel cruel. It felt clear. Dr. Chin gave a small nod. That's not giving up Madison. That's protecting your peace. That night, I sat by Amber's kitchen window and thought about what it would mean to live with less family, but more peace, more honesty, more room to breathe. The idea didn't scare me. It felt like exhaling after holding my breath for too long. After 5 weeks, I felt ready to speak to them. Not to forgive, not yet, but to speak. I sent a message to my mom. I'm ready to talk. Coffee shop on Main Street, Thursday at 2, just the 3 of us. She responded almost instantly. We'll be there. We love you. I didn't reply. The day of the meeting, Amber dropped me off and parked nearby just in case. I arrived 20 minutes early and picked a table in the back corner one with a full view of the front entrance. I wanted space. I wanted control of the room. They came in 10 minutes early. My mom looked tired. Her makeup wasn't perfect the way it usually was. My dad's shirt was a little wrinkled. They looked around, spotted me, and walked over slowly. My mom reached for me, but I raised a hand. "Please sit," I said. "I'm not ready for hugs." They sat down without protest. "You look good," my dad said. "How's the leg?" "Healing," I said. "It'll be a while." "We've been so worried," my mom said, her voice shaking. "Not knowing how you were, not being able to help." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Like how I felt in the hospital." The table went quiet. "I waited," I said. "I thought you'd come. Even when the nurse said you weren't, I still thought maybe you would." My dad opened his mouth, but I kept going. "This isn't about the orientation," I said. "That was just the last straw. This is about everything before it." I pulled my phone from my bag and opened the photo, the one they'd sent from Haley's dorm. I slid it across the table. I was in recovery, tubes in my arms, my leg shattered. "And this is what you sent me." My mom reached for it, then stopped. "We didn't think she started." "I know," I said. "That's the problem. You didn't." They both looked at me, quiet now, listening. I took a breath. I'm not here to rehash every detail, but if we're going to move forward, things have to change. And I began to lay it out. My parents sat across from me at that little corner table, both quiet now, both listening. I told them there wouldn't be any more conversations where Haley's plans took priority over my pain. No more missed birthdays, no more brushed-off promotions, no more pretending the hospital incident was a one-time lapse. It wasn't. If we're going to have a relationship, I said it starts with accountability, no comparisons, no excuses. And I need time. I won't be seeing you for a while, not until I feel safe again. My father leaned forward. "And if we don't agree to that, then we don't have a relationship," I said. "It's that simple." Just then the bell above the cafe door chimed. All 3 of us turned. Haley walked in, scanning the room until her eyes found ours. She made her way over and pulled out the 4th chair. "I asked Madison where you were meeting," she said, settling in. "I thought I should be here." My mom looked surprised. "Honey, this conversation, I know," she said, "and I want to be part of it." There was a long pause before anyone spoke again. My dad gave her a brief rundown. "Madison thinks we've always favored you," he said, voice tight. "She's upset." "She's right," Haley said. Her words hit the table like glass cracking. "What?" my mom asked, blinking. "She's right," Haley repeated. "You've always treated me like the one who needed saving. You dropped everything for me, even when it made no sense." She turned to me. "I never said anything because I didn't know how. But I saw it. I saw how hard you worked, how little they celebrated you." I looked at her. We hadn't had this kind of honesty between us. Ever. "It wasn't fair," she said. "Not to you, not to me." My dad sat back, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "I didn't ask to be the favorite," Haley continued. "It made me feel guilty half the time. And the other half, I was just trying to keep it together. I'm 25 now. I didn't need anyone holding my hand through orientation." My mom opened her mouth to respond, but didn't speak right away. "I love both of you," Haley said, voice softer now. "But Madison deserved better." No one spoke for a while. The cafe noise moved around us, cups clinking, chairs sliding, someone laughing near the counter. But at our table, everything was still. Finally, I cleared my throat. "So here's what's going to happen." I laid out what I needed. No more drop-ins, no more guilt trips. A commitment to real change, not just apologies, and space, several months of it, so I could focus on my healing. "And if that feels harsh," I said, "remember that I'm still recovering. I need peace. I need time." Haley reached across the table and took my hand. "I support this," she said, "and I'll be setting some boundaries of my own." My mom wiped at her eyes. We didn't realize she whispered. "I know I said, but that doesn't undo the impact." My dad looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. "You have a choice now," I said. "You can ignore what I'm saying, or you can start doing the work." I stood up, using my crutches for balance. I've said what I needed to say. I nodded once, turned, and left the cafe. Haley walked with me out to the car. Amber waved from the driver's seat. "That was brave," Haley said quietly. "It was necessary," I told her. She reached for the door handle, then paused. "I'm really sorry, Madison." I nodded. "I know." She didn't follow me into the car, just stood on the sidewalk watching as we pulled away. Back at Amber's house, I sank into the recliner and exhaled. It was the first time in years I felt like I'd spoken without shrinking, without softening the truth, to make it easier for someone else to hear. The days after that were quiet. My parents didn't call, didn't email. My mom sent a few short texts asking about my leg if I needed anything, but I responded simply. No small talk, no long explanations. Haley visited more often, sometimes just for a cup of tea, sometimes to sit and watch a show in silence. One afternoon, she stirred honey into her cup and said, "They're struggling. Mom's been looking through old photo albums. Dad keeps saying you're exaggerating." I didn't say anything. She asked me yesterday if I really thought you'd been treated differently. "What did you say I told her to count the framed photos on the wall?" "There are 27 of me, 3 of you." I almost laughed. "Did she count?" "She did." And then she cried. Haley leaned back in her chair. I think she's starting to see it. And that's how things stayed for a while. Still, uncertain, but not stuck. 3 months after the accident, my parents asked if I'd consider family therapy. I said yes, but on my terms. Remote sessions only. If it got manipulative, I'd leave. If it became performative, I'd stop. They agreed. Our therapist, Dr. Levinson, was calm and firm, a woman in her 50s who didn't let anyone speak over anyone else. She laid down ground rules in the first minute and kept us on track. The first session was rough. "I feel like we're being punished for one mistake," my father said. "One mistake I asked." He didn't answer. Dr. Levinson stepped in. "Robert, when you describe your absence as one mistake, you're minimizing what your daughter has described as a pattern." Haley joined the next session. "It wasn't just one mistake," she said. "You've always treated us very differently." By the third session, my mother started acknowledging it. Slowly. Hesitantly. My dad wasn't there yet, but I could see something shifting. "I didn't mean to make her feel second," my mom said tearfully. Intent isn't the same as impact, I said. In my one-on-one sessions with Dr. Levinson, I said that out loud too. I'm not looking for perfect parents, I told her, but I need them to stop pretending they didn't break something. She nodded. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means building something new on your terms. The more I said what I needed, the stronger I felt. Not louder, not angrier, just clearer. By the start of the 4th month, I had returned to my own apartment, still walking with a cane, but strong enough to manage the stairs slowly, one at a time. The space felt different now. The same furniture, same soft rugs, same books on the shelf, but quieter, like it was finally mine in a way it hadn't been before. Amber came by every few days, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to check in. Haley visited too, helping with laundry, bringing dinner, keeping her voice low and calm. "They're still in therapy," she said one evening as we folded sheets together. "It's not always going well." I nodded. I figured. Dad's having a harder time. Mom cries a lot. They're starting to notice how many things they brushed past over the years. I didn't say much. I wasn't angry that day, just tired. That week during one of our sessions, Dr. Levinson asked me how I would know if things were actually changing. When their behavior shifts, I said, not just their words. I want to see it. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. Real paper, real ink. Not a text, not an email. The envelope was handwritten. Inside 2 pages, both signed by my parents. They didn't try to explain. They didn't defend. They simply acknowledged line by line how they had failed me. They wrote about the missed graduation, the unequal support, the hospital, the photo. We created a family dynamic where Bailey was the center. And you were on the outside. There were no excuses. No, we didn't mean to. Just, we were wrong. We're sorry. We're willing to change if you'll let us. I sat with it for a long time, read it twice, then a 3rd time. Later, I showed it to Haley. "They actually wrote this?" she asked, surprised. I nodded. "They're trying," she said. "They've been reading books about favoritism, even joined some group online for estranged parents." I didn't respond right away. It wasn't that I didn't believe her. I just needed time to decide what came next. A few weeks later, they made a small choice that mattered more than they probably realized. Haley was moving apartments again, her lease ending early after a roommate backed out. She called our parents for help, expecting them to drive up and assist like they always had. They said no. "We've already made plans with Madison that weekend," my mom told her. She offered to reschedule. I found out when Haley told me over coffee. "They're coming to your place for dinner instead," she said. I was surprised. So was I. Amber's reaction was more colorful. "Holy crap," she said. "Flying pigs must be circling." But I remembered what Dr. Levinson had said. Change shows up in choices. And for once, I was the choice. 6 months after the accident, I returned to work full-time. My limp was subtle now, mostly at the end of long days or in the cold. My coworkers welcomed me back with quiet hugs and a sheet cake in the break room. I didn't make a big announcement, didn't say much about what happened, but I noticed the difference. People listened when I spoke, respected the space I needed. It felt like something had shifted, not just in them, but in me. A month after that, I said yes to dinner at my parents' house. It was the first time I'd stepped through that front door since the accident. There were new photos on the walls, ones I hadn't seen before. Me at high school graduation, me receiving an award from the hospital, a college photo of Haley and me together. My mom noticed me looking. "We found old albums," she said softly, "and boxes in the attic. We realized we had more of you than we remembered. We just hadn't put them up." Dinner was quiet, a little awkward, but not uncomfortable. They asked about my work. They listened, really listened. After the dishes were cleared, my dad asked if I'd take a walk with him. We went slowly down the sidewalk. The air had that early summer stillness. the kind that settles just before sunset. After a few minutes, he spoke. "I'll regret not being there in the hospital for the rest of my life," he said. "There's no excuse." I looked ahead, not answering right away. "Why her?" I asked. "Why did she always come first?" He took a long breath. "You remind me of myself," he said. "Solid, steady, the one who handles things. But Haley, she reminded me of someone else." He paused. "My little sister. She died when I was 12. She was wild and bright, needed a lot of watching." He rubbed his hands together. "I think I spent years trying to save her through Haley. Didn't even realize I was doing it. I just assumed you didn't need anything." I didn't respond, just walked beside him as the streetlights flickered on. "I'm trying," he said. "I know it may be too late to make it right, but I want to keep trying." I nodded once. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something close. As we turned toward the house, I realized I wasn't holding my breath anymore. The silence I'd lived in for so long had finally broken. Not with noise, but with something stronger, with clarity. And in the months that followed, that clarity would lead to something even more unexpected. It had been almost a year since the accident. The limp was still there, barely noticeable now, but I could feel it when I stood too long or when the weather turned damp. The titanium rod in my leg would be permanent, the doctors had said. A quiet companion to everything that happened. But I had healed, not just my body. That summer, I closed on a house of my own. A modest 2-bedroom craftsman tucked between tall maples with a front porch just wide enough for a rocking chair and a small table. There was a garden in the back I hadn't touched yet, but I planned to. The down payment came from years of careful saving, plus the promotion I'd received at the hospital department head of physical therapy. It wasn't loud success. It was steady. Mine. I moved in on a Thursday. Haley brought over curtains and helped unpack kitchen boxes. My mom came by the next morning with muffins and a potted fern. My dad helped set up the washer and dryer. There were still awkward silences, but less of them now. The gaps between us weren't as wide. They didn't talk about Haley's schedule or compare our jobs. They asked about how the floors were holding up and which room would be my office. They stayed an hour, then left without lingering. That night, I sat on the porch with a blanket over my knees, listening to crickets and the occasional passing car. The quiet felt earned. At work, something else had shifted. I started speaking up more during staff meetings, during patient consultations. I used to hesitate waiting for permission. I didn't anymore. It's hard to explain the difference, but it showed up everywhere. I stopped apologizing for being direct. I took up space at the conference table. I offered my opinions without padding them, and people listened. One evening after a late shift, I was gathering my things when someone called my name. It was Dr. Nathan Reynolds, the orthopedic surgeon who had operated on me the night I was brought in. "I saw your latest report," he said. "Excellent recovery curve." "Thanks," I said. "I had a good surgeon." He smiled, then hesitated. "I was wondering if you'd want to grab coffee sometime." No pressure. We went out that weekend. It started with small talk about patients and scheduling nightmares. It turned into longer conversations, dinners, walks, a quiet understanding built between us. Nathan didn't flinch when I talked about therapy. He didn't offer fixes when I talked about family. He just stayed. That fall, I hosted a housewarming, just a handful of people, close friends, co-workers, Amber, Haley. My parents came too. They brought a gift, nothing flashy, a woven throw blanket and a book on gardening. Nathan helped in the kitchen, moving through the space like he already knew where things belonged. At one point, he leaned over and said, "Your parents are watching you." I turned toward the living room. They were standing near the fireplace, not talking, just looking at me. Not like before, not distracted or rushed, just proud. Later that night, when most of the guests had gone, Nathan took out the recycling. My parents lingered. "We have something else for you," my mom said. She picked up a large flat package from beside the couch. I unwrapped it slowly. It was a framed collage photos of me throughout my life. Not just one or two, dozens. Baby pictures, high school, college, at work, me with patients, me holding a certificate, me sitting in the sun on my old apartment's fire escape. We found them going through old boxes, my dad said. Didn't realize how much we'd never displayed. I touched the glass, tracing one image with my finger. "There's a letter taped to the back," my mom added. I turned the frame over and peeled off the envelope. Inside was a note, handwritten in both their handwriting. "Madison, as you build this new chapter of your life, we want you to know how deeply we regret not seeing you fully for who you were, for who you are. We missed too much, dismissed too much, and we are sorry. You didn't become strong because we supported you. You became strong in spite of us. We will carry that truth, and we are committed to doing better from here forward. You deserve more than love in name only. You deserve love in action. We will do our best to show up in ways we never have before. With respect, with hope, and with love, Mom and Dad." I didn't speak for a while, just held the frame against my chest. My dad stood near the door watching. "We're proud of you," he said, "not just for what you've done, but for having the courage to tell us when we failed." After they left, Nathan came back in with his sleeves rolled up and a dish towel in hand. He stopped when he saw my face. "You okay?" I nodded. "Getting there." That night we sat on the porch, the sky above us wide and dark. Fireflies flickered near the fence line. I thought about all the nights I'd spent alone in hospital rooms and silent apartments, on long drives back from family visits, where I'd said little and been heard even less. And now, here I was, still healing, still learning, but no longer quiet, no longer waiting to be noticed. The life I'd built didn't erase the pain, but it gave me something steadier, and that steadiness would carry me through what came next. The framed collage hung in my hallway, now just outside the kitchen where the morning light caught the corners of each photo. I passed it every day, not because I needed to see it, but because it reminded me of what had changed and what hadn't. It had been nearly 10 months since the accident. The limp was still there some days, but smaller now, tucked into the rhythm of everything else. I'd stopped noticing it unless I was tired. My parents had continued their efforts, not just words, but actual changes. On my birthday that year, they sent a handwritten card and a gift I hadn't asked for, but loved a set of hardcover books I'd once mentioned in passing. They called after my final therapy discharge just to say congratulations. When Haley asked them to help her move apartments again, they turned her down gently but clearly. "We've already promised to meet Madison for dinner," my dad had said. "Can we help next weekend instead?" Haley didn't fight it. She told me later, it actually felt normal, like the pressure's off. Our relationship had changed too. Not in a loud, dramatic way, just more balanced. We texted regularly, met for coffee, talked like adults. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was bracing myself in her presence. One afternoon, she stood in my kitchen during a visit and said I didn't realize how much I relied on being the focus. It shaped everything I did. I thought it made me important, but now it feels more like freedom. I nodded. We both got assigned roles. Neither one of us asked for them. She leaned against the counter, looking around. "You've built something solid here." I didn't answer right away. I was thinking about how long it took. The housewarming gift from my parents, the photo collage, and the letter behind it had stayed with me in ways I didn't expect. I'd read the note again a few weeks after they gave it to me, slowly, word by word. There were no qualifiers, no excuses tucked into the corners. It didn't undo anything. But it mattered. At work, I'd taken on a new mentorship role for recent PT graduates. I found myself repeating the same phrase often: show up when it counts. Sometimes I wondered if that phrase had stuck in my head because of what hadn't happened in that hospital room, and what had happened since. Nathan was still around too. What started as coffee had turned into dinner, then weekends spent gardening or cooking or watching old movies we both remembered from childhood. We never rushed it. There was a kind of steady warmth between us, one that didn't demand fixing or rescuing. Just presence. "You seem lighter," he said one night as we walked around the block after dinner. "I don't think I'm lighter," I told him. "I think I'm clearer." That fall, my parents invited me to dinner again, just the three of us. No holiday, no birthday, just a quiet meal at their house. I went. There were more photos on the walls now. Balanced. A shot of Haley at her new job, and one of me leading a patient through a recovery routine framed side by side. After dinner, my mom brought out a small box. "We came across these last week," she said, placing it gently on the table. Inside were old report cards, drawings from elementary school, a pressed flower from a corsage I hadn't thought about in years. "We kept these," she said softly. "Just never really shared them." I held one of the drawings up to the light. Crayon clouds. A stick figure with a big smile and a sun overhead. "We weren't present in the ways we should have been," my dad said. "But we want you to know we noticed more than we let on. We just failed to show it." I didn't say much, just nodded. It wasn't about rewriting the past anymore. It was about staying in the present long enough to make something different. On Thanksgiving that year, they came to my house for dinner. Haley helped me cook. Nathan brought dessert. My mom sat at the kitchen table peeling apples. My dad carved the turkey. It was the smallest moment that stayed with me, my dad asking Haley to wait until Sunday to visit, because he wanted to walk with me after dinner. "Just the two of us," he said. We went slowly past quiet houses and yards scattered with leaves. He didn't say much, just walked beside me, hands in his coat pockets. When we got back to the porch, he paused before going inside. "You've changed this family," he said, "by speaking up, by not letting us pretend." I didn't answer, just stood next to him for a few seconds longer. Inside, Haley was lighting candles. My mom was serving pie. Nathan had started putting dishes in the sink. And I stood in that doorway, not waiting to be seen, but simply being there. The house was warm that evening. Soft light from the kitchen, the hum of conversation, the familiar scent of cinnamon and roasted apples lingering in the air. After the walk with my dad, we all gathered around the dining table again, second slices of pie in hand, nothing left to prove. There wasn't a grand speech, no dramatic final apology, just small things: my mom refilling Haley's glass without fuss, my dad asking Nathan about his favorite football team, Haley slipping her phone away without checking it once. The room felt even, balanced in a way it never had before. Later, after everyone had gone, I stepped out onto the porch alone. The night was cool, quiet. Wind in the trees, the faint rustle of leaves along the sidewalk. I wrapped the blanket tighter around my shoulders and sat for a long time. It struck me, sitting there, how much had changed, not just around me, but in me. For so long, I'd been the daughter who kept peace by staying silent, who held everything together by disappearing when it was inconvenient to be seen. But silence didn't heal me. It kept me small. Finding my voice wasn't loud or angry. It was steady, measured, the kind of voice that says, "This is what I need, this is what I will no longer carry." And because of that voice, the people around me had shifted too. Not perfectly, not quickly, but honestly. My parents weren't trying to erase the past anymore. They were showing up in the present. Haley had stepped out of the spotlight and stood beside me. And Nathan, he never once asked me to be less. It's strange how the worst kind of break, the one that left rods in my bones and scars along my skin, also made space for something stronger to take root. Not just healing, wholeness. I won't say everything's easy now. There are still days I feel that old tightness in my chest, moments when an old memory catches me off guard. But they don't control me anymore. They don't define me. What defines me is what I've built: a home where I feel safe, a career that I earned step by step, relationships built on mutual care, not obligation. I didn't just recover, I rebuilt. And for anyone listening who's been made to feel invisible, whether by family, by circumstance, or by the slow erosion of being overlooked, I want to say this. You're allowed to ask for more. You're allowed to take up space. And sometimes the hardest boundaries are the ones that set you free. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your reflections in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, feel free to share it with them. Take good care of yourself, and remember, you deserve to be seen.